Hi, everyone. My name is Rashid Ganga. I am the program director for Impulse Group. I know half of you were probably expecting DeMarcus to be hosting today, but unfortunately at 4 a.m. he got called into work, so you're stuck with me. Welcome to the second Impulse Talks, Being Black. And I am going to be hosting it with our New York chapter. It looks like our day got disconnected, so I'm going to go on and introduce our guests. First, I'm going to start with Picasso Moore. Hey, Picasso.
Hey, good afternoon, morning, whatever time it is where you're watching. Hi.
Hi. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I am a New York-based writer and social creative. I also work I do a little bit of sculpting and a little bit of short film directing, but mostly writing. And I focus on everything we're going to be discussing today: Blackness, queerness, generational particularities, ambition, all the fun, big meaty stuff. And I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us. Next up is Day. Hey, Day.
Hey, y'all. How's it going?
How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Happy Sunday to everyone.
Happy Sunday indeed.
I'm excited to be here. I'm just going to say that.
Tell us a little about yourself.
Right. So for myself, once again, I'm Day Armbruster. My superhero name is Day Phoenix. Basically, I am a HIV advocate, sex worker advocate, pole dancer, instructor, fighting evil by moonlight, winning love by daylight. You name it, I'm here for it. I'm also, fun fact, the president of Impulse Group NYC chapter. So shout out to that, Nouveau.
Ow. And last but not least, Miss Mojo. Hey, boo. How are you?
My name is Miss Mojo. I am an artist, creator, and beautiful.
The president of Impulse Group NYC chapter. So,
oh, I think we have a little bit of feedback.
Yeah.
Go ahead, do that again, Mojo.
What's up, y'all? It's your girl, Miss Mojo, coming from Brooklyn, New York. I'm an artist, creator, and just a big, beautiful Black woman of trans experience.
Oh, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
So thank you all for joining us on this cold Sunday afternoon in New York.
Okay.
So I wanted to get us together because it is Black History Month, and we were talking about this whole idea of hosting a live chat, and it being on the intersectionality of being Black and queer. And the topic kind of came up when we were reading All Boys Aren't Blue, and it was I think it was probably my favorite book of all of last year.
Word, George.
Right. And I really loved how he presented the intersectionality of him being Black and queer and his experience and his family and what his first sexual experience was like. And I think there's so much of our experience as a community that we don't talk about, that we need to have these spaces where we open up and share them and just be us. So I'm going to start off first by checking with y'all to see how you guys held up last year, especially given all of the killings and the protests and all of that. I'm sorry, you, Day, because you were out in these streets.
Triggered. So I will say this. Last year really kicked myself into a hard drive. I was tired, especially we was going through pandemic. We was in our homes, stuck. And just seeing what happened, not only to George Floyd, but to Tony McDade and so many others. And when I think of my community, who there's probably so many haven't even been documented, that we lost so many siblings, whether it's police violence, transphobia, homophobia, whatever the case may be. Enough was enough for me. As a Black gay man living with HIV, enough was enough, because I just felt it was just such an eye-opener of how this whole entire system has always been up against Black and brown people. So to that effect, literally, I had went on one of my first protests earlier on in the summertime, and then I just kept going and going, because I was I will not let my voice be lesser than anymore when it comes to speaking up for my people. And in that effect, as of right now, yes, back then I was the angry black man, and I owned that, and I had no problem saying that. But in the same token, I am more leveled out where I not only have the passion to want to do better for our people, we need action steps. So I think that at this point, let the anger fuel us in a direction where we can try to find the ways to really get the equity we deserve. And we'll talk about later, like the different intersectionality. So not just being black, we can't just separate ourselves from our other identities. There's so many layers to it that we just really need to decolonize and also just try to find a way to unify as best as possible. So yeah, my head is all about forward action and just trying to down white supremacy. When I say white supremacy, I mean the entire system, not specific people, but the system.
I hear you. What about for you, Picasso?
I mean, COVID specifically, I think I don't do well just being isolated. I think one of the reasons like many people, it's not a unique experience, but I moved from a small town to New York, specifically searching for a community. That was what I was really starving for through the bulk of my adolescence. And then it was like that was cut off. I mean, obviously we have FaceTime and we have technology like this, but one of the things that like really fed me for my first couple of years here was being in not digital spaces like this, but physical spaces like this with Black queer people. It was how I learned a lot about myself. It was how I understood that there was, precedent and context. I'm not the only one. It was just really important to me. So getting cut off from that was really difficult. And then that was compounded by everything that happened with Ahmaud Arbery, with George Floyd, with so many others, as you mentioned, who we don't know, so many siblings who weren't as widely reported on. It was a really difficult couple. It was like a perfect storm of just like one thing after the I'm not gonna swear, but it was one thing after the other. And so for me, I really channeled a lot of that into my work. I was writing a lot because I really didn't have anything else to do. A lot of us were, we got laid off or we got furloughed and freelance gigs were kind of sparse. So it was just, for me, it was about it was a lot of internal work and writing. And then obviously I felt more galvanized. I've never been like a marcher or a person to really, activism for me has always been more of an abstract concept. It's one of those resistance through existence type of things. But I felt so galvanized when I was like, I have to get out there. I was in Union Square. I was screaming. I was with the poster. It was just, I don't know, it was a crazy time. But I feel like it's been a time for healing and self-reflection as much as it is a time, like you said, for anger and momentum and moving forward.
All right. And Mojo, how was the past year for you?
It has been the wildest year of my Black ass life. I am a COVID survivor. So I started off the pandemic shutdown with the damn COVID-19 gagging. Like, girl, what? Like on the midst of my birthday, I had to cancel my birthday and everything. Like it was crazy. But there's something to be said about, I'm a native New Yorker, no shade to anyone else, but I've never experienced my city in standstill. So this was the first time in my life I was like gagging, like, wow, like I don't have to go out this weekend. Let me get into her. Like, I think someone who's always a part of the nightlife or just social circles, it was kind of like an extended vacation, and it made me focus more on my health and my art disciplines. This is the most creative I've ever been in my life. This has been the most lucrative past year for me as far as my art, as far as my talent, speaking engagements. Everyone wants a piece of Miss Mojo this year. I'm just gagging like, wow, wow. This is who we are now, and I love it. I love it.
All right. For me, this past year was a mixed bag, to say the least. The pandemic, I'm naturally an introvert. So the pandemic actually fed me a little bit. But I think the hardest moment for me, and I was just talking to a friend of mine on Friday, was the killing of Ahmaud Arbery. So I'm a runner, and I like going out my house and like running around my neighborhood and just hitting these streets. And after all that happened, I couldn't go out by myself. I couldn't put on my shoes. I think right now I'm at the point where like I haven't gone running in months. And my friend asked me, he was like, what is it that's holding you back? And I never realized how much of that trauma I had internalized and let it like, it just grip me. And he's like, you're being gripped by fear. And that's how the system wins. And you need to let that go and do you, speak your truth, live your life. And I think that leads us into this conversation, right? So like, we are intersectional beings. Like we have all these facets that make up who we are. But as a Black man walking out my door, that's the first thing that's being seen. And it brings into questions like, how do we define intersectionality, and how do we present it so that like it's not you're not just looking at me and seeing my Blackness? I think you're on mute, Day.
No, I was asking who wants to take that one, because there's so much. And you want to go?
I mean, it's a big thing to like unpack, but I'll give it a shot. I think the way you define intersectionality, I would say intersectionality is just finding a way to lean into every part of yourself. I think and obviously I don't need to explain any of that to anyone in this not room, but in this room. You know, to have a duly marginalized identity is to walk through the world with one part of yourself clenched at all times. It's either I'm in this space and it's dominated by, you know, predominantly white queer folks, or it's dominated by predominantly straight folks, or and cis folks. It's you kind of code switching and always having this awareness of the way that you have to present yourself. And I think the definition, or my understanding of intersectionality, is literally that all of those things just kind of bleed, every part of you just bleeds in to each other, and it informs. My queerness informs my Blackness informs my queerness, and I shouldn't have to fragment or pair those parts of myself off. Now, like, that's like a really great ideal. Practically, I mean, it's more challenging to kind of walk in to every space with every part of yourself on full display. And I mean, I can't control what people see, and I can't control what people perceive, but I think there's something to be said for not holding back, and having, if you feel safe enough to, for having the courage to let all of yourself be seen. It not only, like I said earlier, moving to New York and connecting with community, it made me understand that there was a precedent, that I wasn't the only one. And I think that does something for people who are interacting with us as well, to see that we can contain multitudes. It could potentially open people's minds. So that makes me, I mean, hopeful. I think if you can be all of yourself, if you can be all of yourself, I think it makes it easier for the next person entering that same room to in some way be all of themselves. And then obviously it gets more complex. Like you said, it's about deconstructing a whole system, but that's my first thought.
Jay,
someone else.
So to follow up with that, of course, when I think of intersectionality, I love the way that you put it, like where everything bleeds into one another. So as I had mentioned earlier on, when it comes to our identities, who we are, I don't just, while yes, the first thing that someone might see of me might be I am a Black man based on the color of my skin, or we might see someone as white. There's so many layers of us as people that intertwine. So not only am I Black, I identify as gay, I identify as cisgender male, but I also know that in terms of like my outward gender expression, I'm very gender fluid. Like I could wear tights with no issue, women's clothes with no issue. I'm very comfortable in that sense. And I mentioned the comfortability because that's where the intertwining comes in. There's no form of fashion where I feel that, especially the way that I've been living my life as a 31-year-old man, should I have to compartmentalize myself for certain circles, you know? So that's where problems kind of lie, like, especially we're marginalized already based on the color of our skin. And then on top of that, when you bring in like our sexual orientation, of course, we've had a history of like being gay, lesbian, trans as like being illegal at one point in this country. Like, you know, that's how like Stonewall riots was happening because of like bar raids and things of that nature, you know? And once again, who's in the forefront of these conversations? Black trans women. If you think of Marsha Johnson, okay, like let's like really read the room. That's exactly where I see it as, you know. So it's like, you know, it wasn't just a Black woman, it was a woman of trans experience who like cared so much for her community and just wanted to see us prosper, but enough was enough. And that's how we ended up with prides and you know, like having like all of these, you know, the ability to be us, to be intersectional, to own our stuff. But just as somebody who's Black, it feels like a double whammy sometimes in society when you're walking through society, because it's like, okay, in certain white circles, I gotta make sure that I speak a certain way in terms like, or, you know, maybe I could like, you know, maybe sensationalize and throw in a yes queen or something like that because they watch a RuPaul Drag Race or something. But I shouldn't have all these multiple identities. I should just be seen as myself, as anyone else should be seen, in all transparency. That's why like I feel like it's very important to own your intersectionality and own all of the things, because you can just be authentic. And sometimes I feel that when you like close off one part of yourself, then that just throws away the you know, it's just not as, you're not as authentic to the people you want to be, and we're not able to connect. And that's so like, yeah.
And I think that if I could just add one more thing, I think similar to what you, like we were talking before the broadcast started, just about like how I've been watching Mojo on social media, like watching each person, similar to what I was saying before, like I do think it does something, even if it's in like a very granular type of way. As you said, to be your authentic self, I'm seeing you and I see you and I see, and it does give you, it pushes you, even if it's in a small way, to be like, yes, I'm not just rooting for you, but like we are kind of non-verbally giving each other permission to be like, go off in this space and in this space and in this space and in this way. So I think, yeah, like it has this kind of, even if it's unintentional, I do think it has a kind of synergistic effect. Like we all, it's making us all more powerful. Yeah.
I think personal intersectionality is brilliant because we're all not just one thing. We all are many things. And we need to celebrate that within ourselves in order to truly understand who we are, where we come from, and where we're going. I think intersectionality on a grand scale, a public scale, is a scam. It's a scam when the most marginalized identities are not being championed. And in that, so it's kind of like in the workforce where you have diversity. That's been the word of 2020, right? You can have all the diversity in the world, but if the people who are the most oppressed in that group are not given the space to grow and elevate, is it really diverse? Or is it just business as usual? You know, these are things I think about as a Black woman who is from the hood, who is trans, whose identity is very pro-Black. A lot of times in conversations, people say they address people of color. I'm not a person of color. I'm Black. And my politic is Black. And sometimes intersectionality lumps us together, just like the way the gay flag lumps us together, but we all have our different wants and needs. The real work comes when we say, hey, this is what this community needs, and we need to find ways to make that happen for that community, not just, hey, y'all take this one carrot and make it work. I don't want any carrots. I want my piece of the pie that is fitting for me and my community. Because what happens is this: when the most marginalized people get the things they need, that only helps the people up the ladder. You know what I'm saying? If Black women get free, gay Black men get free, Black lesbians get free, cis people get free. Like it's a movement that helps all of us. So when I think of that intersectionality work, that's what needs to be done.
And I like that you bring that up, because like when we look at intersectionality, it is forcing us to look at these individual microcosmic views of who we are, right? And
Right.
we can't control what people see of us when we walk out into the world, but what we damn sure can control is how you're gonna treat me.
Period.
And I think as minority groups, and I hate using that phrase because like, bitch, we're just people. We have been victimized to the point where we allow ourselves to be treated less than, and we're at a point now where we need to like start like using our voice and be like, no more, this shit's over, like it's done.
Right.
And
people don't even know that they're being treated less than. That's the real issue, because they come up in the world and we've been so accustomed to unfair treatment, to systemic ways to be oppressed. People don't know. A lot of people don't know. So the journey of getting free and unlearning, many people don't even know how to start that work. But it starts with these conversations and letting people know that, okay, it's a problem. This house is on fire. Although it's on your side, it's actually a blaze. And we need to figure out ways in which that we can, if we're not going to save the house, reconstruct the house and reformat and reimagine this community.
So then the big question is like, how do we begin to address this issue, right? Like, how do we begin to break down this concept of intersectionality and just be like, bitch, this is me.
Show up proud and authentic. Show up and make other people uncomfortable. Do that work. It's scary. It's very scary, but do it. Check people when they use microaggressions. If you don't know what microaggressions are, go to Google, do your work. I think we look at it as such a big step, but it's literally at our toes. We just have to step forward and do it and say, you know what? I'm not going to be pleasant today because, God damn it, I don't feel pleasant. And let's talk about the ways in which my mental health, my emotional health, and my spiritual wellness can contribute to the society, not the ways in which I need to get it together or reform or small myself, Yeah.
Day.
I also say I do think that spaces like this and the work that we're doing, the contributions we made to books like what we're going to talk about later, Our Light Through Darkness, I think we are stronger in numbers. And it's so important, like how I was going on about the kind of the abstract ways in which you can all be yourself. And then you made another point about like, okay, but how do we get to the particularities of each individual instead of speaking about these? I think it's internal conversations like this that offer a perspective that I wouldn't have considered, that the one on the left wouldn't have considered, that you wouldn't have considered. And then we get together and then we're like, okay, how do we move? I think that to me is always, like I said, I think community is my biggest thing. It's being with people who have a commonality, but also who have particularity. It's being with people who can enlighten you to things, who can challenge some of the ideas that maybe, as you said, a lot of people don't know what they don't know. They don't know what they need to unlearn. They don't realize that they've been so deluged in conditioning that this is just the way it is, that even something very small that seems innocuous, language that it's a microaggression, and they don't feel comfortable enough to say something. They know it makes them feel a type of way, but they don't understand what's at the root of that. And then so by connecting with people, by having these types of like deeper, authentic conversations, I think it equips you better to move through the world and not just advocate for yourself, but advocate for your sister, for your brother, for your person over here, for it puts that at the forefront of your mind, that it's not about me getting through the door. It's about, let me hold this shit open, or hold this door open so that everyone can move through with us. So, I mean, yeah. hats off to everybody.
No, so yeah, to echo all of that as well too. I'm first thing that comes to mind. Impulse had a theme last year, transparency. For us, that meant that you're owning your unique truths, identities, whatever that makes you content as a person, whatever makes you human, as you as an individual as well as a collective. We need you to own that. We like, be proud of that. So for me, what that means to me is like I'm proud of being a Black man who did come from the hood, yes, who also went to college, who also has like, done pretty well things in terms of like work or whatever the case, who also went through an HIV diagnosis, who also went through like, if I'm being transparent about my journey, who also like was burnt out of an apartment, briefly was homeless, but I was blessed by my ancestors to rise above, So all of those things, it's like, for me, it's about not hiding. And us as Blacks, I'm just gonna say us as a Black collective, we always have this thing about like hiding our pain or like, praying in silence and things of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
But my HIV journey, which I always call it my like second lease on life, that has really awoken me to really live the life that I need to live and speak up on the things that I need to speak up on. And that when it comes to like those disparagements of like, healthcare, or when it comes to like when I'm like getting into like learning more about sex workers' rights and learning about how we can advocate when it comes to legislation that's going against us when it comes to like online
repeal foster system.
Okay, exactly. Thank you. Well, like there's another one out there, SASA as well too. So you could also Google the things. We could write it somewhere. Google it, So when it comes to like saying like knowing the intersectionalities, you have to also be at a place, as Mojo mentioned earlier, be uncomfortable or make people uncomfortable rather.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, if you're making someone uncomfortable about it, you're doing your job correctly, because that means you're living in your truest form. You're owning no matter what parts of you, whether you're Black, because we are talking about Black History Month, whether you are Black, whether you're trans, whether you're non-conforming, whether you're like positive, sex worker, whatever you identify as, those are truths that you have to be able to own, truths that you have to be able to collect other people to own theirs as well. And then when people can start saying, oh, I'm not alone, because now we're taking the individual out and we're bringing community, that's how the voices get louder, because now you have this whole like conglomerate of people who's like, okay, enough is enough for us. We're not being treated fairly. We're not getting the things that we deserve and need in order to live as successfully as like the 1%. We need to do something. We need to mobilize. We need to speak to the people that we need to speak to. And that's why you have all of these organizations such as SWAP, such as GLITZ, such as Destination Tomorrow, such as all of these orgs that exist to do that type of work, because you have those populations that are in need, and you have enough people to say, okay, enough is enough. What can we do for these communities, for our community? So just to tie it all in once again, like once you get to that place, and that's the place that I'm at least at, like I'm gonna at least be real with you in terms of how I see things about my Blackness, like in my Black view. And I'm also gonna just be transparent, so that way there's nothing you can use against me because you know what it is. And also I just believe that Black folks should just stop apologizing for talking about our plights, because we shouldn't small ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
We should be bigging up ourselves and saying, this is what we went through, now you need to change it. Mm-hmm. And we speak up a lot more in that sense, especially us as like Black queer people. Enough is enough. We have too much going against us. We need to start pushing back if we haven't done so already.
Yeah, I think I was. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was obviously Sam Smith is non-binary but white, but I think one thing that they said, they were like doing press for the new record. One thing that they said that I think translates. I mean, it was particular to their experience, but I think it translates. The sentiment translates to what we're talking about right now. They were just talking about how in the kind of like contemporary queer liberation movement, which we know has been co-opted by like cis white gay men in a major way, they were just talking about like assimilation and how a lot of the goal was like gay people want to be treated like straight people. That was we're just like you. We're just like you, and we want you to see our commonality. And that there's been a shift in the last couple of years. I mean, I think it's always existed, but as you said, like the voices are getting louder, where it's like, no, we don't want to be treated like you. You need to see us as queer people. You need to see us as Black people. You need to see us as trans people. You need to see us as what we are and treat us, be mindful of all of that and treat us for exactly what we are. We're not interested in I'm not going to say we're not interested in equity, but I don't remember exactly what the quote was, but it really struck me because I think it applies to the sentiment that we're kind of diving into here, which is that we're not really we're interested in every part of who we are being acknowledged, being seen, and letting all of that be considered. Yeah, but I was just piggybacking off of what you said.
I want to be treated better than you.
Yes.
Not treat each other. I don't want that. I don't want that. I want to be treated better than you because you put me through the ringer. Like I deserve to be elevated in a space where you're not centered in any part of my life. I want to be treated better than you because you know what you've done is wrong. I want you to acknowledge those wrongs and I want you to make it right. You know, uplift. I don't want to be shoulder to shoulder. Why? That's not where I want to be. You know, and I think you bring up a great point, Picasso, because I go back and I was staying on Clubhouse the other day. America thought that the only thing gay people wanted was marriage. And that's what white gay men wanted at the time. They wanted love wins. Mind you, you have Black gay people still homeless. Can't even stay together. You know, Black people, we don't stay together. Come on, we work it out the best way we can. Marriage, you know, and that summed up our whole fight from pride to marriage. Oh no, honey, no. That has nothing. And this world is still illegal to work as a gay person in places, to work as a trans person in places. You
Absolutely.
What are we talking about? You know, so you bring up a great point, Picasso.
And I think this goes back to this whole like, living in discomfort thing. Like every day we walk out of our house, we are uncomfortable.
Right.
Like that is our natural state of being. And the fact that we are asking you, not even asking, we're demanding that you lean into a little bit of discomfort and you're saying no, or you want to run away from the fight, that's a huge problem. Like how do you expect
a huge privilege? It's a huge privilege. Because again, that goes back to me saying, if we get free, the white gays get free as well. You know, think about it, the logistics. If we get free and who we are in our livelihoods, y'all get free as well. Because what happens is you have Black queer people at the forefront making sure that everybody is right. Because that's what we do. That is our life work. You know, it's never been singular. So once we get the things we deserve, that helps some more marginalized people or the people who have structured a system in which we stay oppressed. When we get free, y'all get free. When we're happy,
so what does real equity look like then, right? So like this word has been thrown around so much this year, and I don't think there is any real understanding of what equity is.
Yeah.
It's one of those abstractions. It's one of those abstractions that, similar to what you were saying earlier, Mojo, that there was, you know, the buzzwords around diversity. It's one of those things that evokes a nice warm feeling, and then no one wants to expand on like the practical mechanisms that we employ to achieve equity. What does it look like? As you were saying, there's still many states, gay marriage might be legal all around this country, you know, surrogate, you know, adoption and things that cater to a particular demographic in a particular socioeconomic bracket might have been achieved, but there are still many states in which, you know, religious liberties legislation is being used, as you said, to fire people. People can still walk up to you and say, you do this in the privacy of your own home. This is the way you identify. This is the way you present yourself. You're unemployed, period. And it's totally legal. There are, I mean, so to think of it, I think equity goes beyond optics. It goes beyond branding. It goes beyond the warm feeling that these gentle words make us feel. It goes beyond a black square on Instagram. It's in the granular. It's in the mechanism. It's in I'm trying not to curse. I'm sorry. It's in things like what we're doing today. Okay. It's in things like,
yeah.
okay.
Go
It's in things like what we've done with this collaboration with Our Light Through Darkness. It's in people like Impulse as a consortium and Laquan getting together and saying, okay, we have this funding, we have this coin, we have this initiative and this desire. Now, how do we take that coin, give it to Mojo, give it to Picasso, give it to this person? It's not about waiting for these entities and these corporations to see us and value us. It's about you and you and you and I getting together and saying, you have something to say, you have a unique perspective, you have a talent, you have a gift. Let's get together and let's create our own thing. Mm-hmm. For me, that's what equity, that's like the impetus. That's how it begins for me. I think it's about leveraging whatever you have within your power to honor yourself and also to see someone else, to see something that maybe they don't see in themselves. For me, it was Laquan picked up the phone and was like, I really think you should contribute to this thing. I think you have something interesting to say. When I was not in a space where I really felt like, just personally, I was like, career-wise, I don't know what I'm doing. COVID's going crazy. The work is drying up. He was like, no, you have something to say. Why don't you come? It's about leveraging what you have to make space for everyone who is similar to you, everyone who is tangential to you, everyone who's had someone on their neck before. For me, that's what equity is. It's about using what you have to shift the paradigm instead of waiting for someone else to be like, yeah, why don't you come over? And I'm sorry that we've been ignoring you for 100 years, but come on over now. For me, that's where equity begins. And then I think it's like a domino effect, because if you pull me up and then I get up and then I pull the next person up and then they pull the next person up, all of a sudden we're up, and it's stuff. You know?
And I think this brings us into, we keep talking about Our Light Through Darkness quite a bit.
Sorry, you're leaving it.
No.
I'm just excited.
Trust me, I saw the book yesterday for the first time and I was like, oh my God. So when I look at our community, and I'm referring to the Black and Brown community, the Black, Brown, LGBTQIA plus community, we are an incredible resource, right? Like, we have so much creativity and love and fire within us. And because of like these microcosmic views of us, none of that talent gets to get seen. So like when, I'm going to kick it over to Day to talk about this book, but like when this book was pitched, I was like, this is such a dope idea. Because it gave, to your point, Picasso, it gave our community and our people a platform to say, this is me, right? Day, go ahead. Tell them about the book so everyone knows.
I'm gonna keep it nice and cute and brief because I do like to ramble. But to make in terms of like origins, basically, we had, going back to our transparency theme of last year, we wanted a project that really shown how our community was able to own themselves, whether it's certain kinks, whether it's like, certain type of love relationships, you name it. We want ourselves to have room and have space to be seen in that light. But of course, COVID hit, and we all had seen the darkness within that, on top of racial injustice, on top of, like I said, transphobia, in the middle of all of these things, in the middle of a deadly pandemic, right?
Yeah.
So when it comes to the Black portion of it, we heavily felt that in our hearts and our spirit, especially with majority of our board being Black identifying, that we needed to provide a platform to really shed light on us in the community, in the queer community. And when we say us, we use the form of, we wanted this book as a replacement of a project we usually do in person for a fundraiser, like Party for a Purpose. So we use this as a fundraiser, but also to bring visibility explicitly for the Black and Brown community. We wanted to explicitly make sure that we caught ourselves celebrating sex. Most times things that, like in our community, we like to kind of keep on a hush hush, but we wanted to capture that. We wanted to capture those who are living HIV positive. We wanted to make sure that there were trans visibility, gender fluidity, all of those things that we need to own within ourselves.
Yes.
Okay, so this is, listen, read the room. This is the
Come on.
material. Just like y'all know, these are the actual clips of what's inside of the book.
Oh.
And we wanted to own our bodies and own, and that's another thing as well too that comes with intersectionality. Like the very things that you see when you look at somebody, it's not, oh, they're a Black person, but they're Black and they're thin, they're Black and they're big. What if they like had that, like so many judgments? It's time to really like step into the light, say, this is who I am, this is the body that I'm experiencing, this is the persona that I'm like, you know, personifying, this is me unapologetically. And I'm very proud of us, and shout out to Laquan as well too, who's out there for curating such amazing freaking talent that is a part of this book, who did it for community in mind, because we really, every single meeting that we've had from since day one has said, let's make sure this book not only is you know, beautiful in our artwork, so to speak, but is representing for our community and is speaking to someone in our community. So yeah, that's pretty much about
the book. So first of all, shout out to everybody a part of this project. The book is cunt, honey. Cunt. Make sure y'all cop that. All right. Y'all saw the link. Don't check out that link, cop the book. Okay. But secondly, my submission, I shot my photo set while I was battling COVID. And for me, it was a place of, I did not know if this was going to be the last photo shoot of my life, right? So what you see is literally me holding my breath in between coughing excessively, vomiting. It took me 5 hours to complete that shoot. But for me, it was a mental thing, because I think the brilliance of our people is that we are fighters, and we keep going. And it's so important to document our existence. Y'all, document your existence, so there is no question about the life you lived and the commitment you gave to society. White supremacy has strategically worked to make sure that our history is eliminated, is watered down, is whitewashed. But this, baby, oh yes, this is Black and brown excellence, and it's our stories coming straight from us, not through a white gaze, not through anybody else's permission but our own. So I am so proud of this project, and I'm so happy to be a part.
Yeah, and can I just say, I love the formatting. I love that it is a book that contains images. It also contains like literature and contributions that people wrote. But aside from the fact that it is just like a book, I love that it's also a coffee table book.
Yeah.
Because in my mind, I see it as a fixture in someone's home. I see it as a conversation piece. I see, like, I envision the whole narrative of like people coming over for drinks. I envision people who maybe have never been exposed. As you said, it's important to document your own life, document your own experience, document your own history. And I love the idea that, yes, someone like us, somebody Black and trans, somebody Black and queer, somebody Black and HIV positive, somebody Black, you know, who's handy capable, somebody from a similar experience who sees themselves in the book. I love the idea that they'll see themselves, but I also love the idea that it'll be there on someone's coffee table, it'll be there on someone's side table, on someone's mantle, and that there's potentially someone who's never been who's never been in a space like this, who picks it up, and their first exposure, not only are they seeing these immaculate, gorgeous images, but they're reading words that are from us, that are by us, that are about us. I love that it's a coffee table book, and I think coffee table books, the intention of them is to be displayed. The intention of them is to be a conversation piece. The intention of them is to be that while you're sitting down making small talk, it spurs a conversation. And I like that it's subtle, I like that it's there, and I like that it's unapologetic. And you couldn't have said it better, Mojo. Like, it is us documenting ourselves with our own perspectives. And as you said earlier, Jay, it is us diving into things that we don't talk about so much. It's us diving into kink. It's us diving into desires. That was one of the pieces that I wrote, like shit that I, as liberated as I want to pretend that I am, and as down as I am to get in the jock trap and take a picture, like there's shit I want to do that I still feel like I'm not trying to do that with those white girls. Like I'm nervous, and that's not shit that Black queens get into, and I'm scared. But I really want to try it. The videos I watch on Pornhub are hot, but I'm scared. Like there's just shit that we don't talk about that is out there, and it's a peek into our internal. And I just love that I'm so excited about this book, and every day I'm checking my mailbox. Like I can't wait to get my copy and put it on my little table.
And I think that's what why this book is so important for me, especially, is like this past year has really demonstrated the power of storytelling, right? Mm-hmm. There have been so many moments this year where like I felt like I was going through something on my own. And it wasn't until I would like sit down with Day, or I'd sit down with John, or I'd even sit down with my boss Jose, and I'm just like talking, and it's like, you're not alone, boo. Like there are other people that are going through a similar situation to you that you could lean into them and like get strength, or like just find comfort to know that you will make it through this. You will shine and will continue to shine. And I think this book is like as I was flipping through it last night, and I was like, I can't believe, like, I'm looking at all these faces and all these like images, and I'm like, I feel celebrated. Like I feel like I can just walk out my door and just like, I'm here, bitches. Let's go.
Yeah.
And you know, that's the fun part for me as well too, because just admittedly, while I said definitely this is about community, right? I did also want to make sure that like Impulse, or we wanted to make sure that Impulse was represented as well too, to say yes, we are a part of this community. So not only are we curating this stuff, we also exist in like these little galaxies as well too. So you'll see that like John, I want to shout out John, he's the former president. John is in here, Eric is in here, I'm in here with my pole dancing and my song, like, you know, I'm in there with my writing. So it's beautiful for us to be the like part of the example, to show that we all can be seen. I was sitting here listening to everyone, and I'm thinking how when we grew up, well, at least for me, I always wanted to be Storm from the X-Men, because she was that powerful. Yes, you know, Black excellence, powerful woman, or whatever the case may be. But essentially, we all have these dreams and aspirations of wanting to kind of be up in these places, but so many times we're told, oh, you can't be this because you look this way, or you can't do that because you exist in this type of world. And it was important to have that type of image, because in all honesty, I started pole dancing because I wanted to be a stripper. And I always used to like, that was something that we always kind of suppress sex work and things of that nature. But I saw beauty in that, to be honest with you. Like as dismal as some parts are in the movie, Players Club is my favorite movie. And but like make that money, don't let it make you, right? But in the same token, I'm telling the story because over this past year, I have come to terms to myself where, yes, I've been comfortable. I've danced in a couple of clubs before. Why should I feel shame about that? I've been living my life, so to speak, like dancing, because dancing has always been my number one passion. And that's the way I look at it. I look at it as an art form, as taking power within your sexuality to dictate, hey, I'm going to hustle this, I'm going to make some money type stuff, you know? So why am I shaming that? Why are we overall shaming that within this world? And especially when not everybody wants to be a stripper forever. Some do it so that way they could pay off med school and become your next doctor, or some people want to become your next lawyer, you know, like, or whatever their goal is.
You and I were talking about this yesterday, where we were talking about like when we came out, one of the beauties of being a gay man is, bitch, I now have access to a whole other wardrobe of clothes.
Right.
Like, so you can't tell me I can't go out and like, this shirt, this blouse is cute, I can't buy it. Bitch, I'm putting this blouse on.
Our world is how as Black and brown people. I'm just going to let you know, right? And I think that once again, I know for me it's probably a fantasy, but if we could get to this point once again, where if we're just owning the parts and saying like, why is there shame to it? If it's not harming me, it's not hurting me and my community, so to speak, let's own it, and let's be supportive of one another to build ourselves up to once again get the equity. So when we bring it back to the equity, I'm a Google girl. If I don't really exactly know it, I'm going to look it up, right? So the first thing that comes up when I looked up equity, they told the difference between equality and equity is that equality means each individual or group of people is given the same resources and opportunities. When we say we want equity, we recognize that each person has different circumstances and you allocate the exact resources and opportunities needed to reach your
Mojo, that's just what you said. That's just what you said.
I would never
Exactly.
lie to you, baby. I would never lie to you.
Right, that's
I don't want
exactly
what you
what you
got. I
said.
want more.
Right, that's exactly what you said. So, like, you know, like, let's just identify where we're at and then just treat me as such. Like, I don't want to, like, you know, have to necessarily assimilate, but I do want you to notice who we are as people. We are here. We ain't going nowhere. Treat us with some dignity. Treat us with some respect. Give us some equity.
I want to ask something too. I think the underlying text in this is literally this work combats and fights against the notions of no fats, no femmes, right?
Mm-hmm.
We know that term. We know how that term has been used in community to dehumanize and ostracize members of the community, specifically Black gay community. But with works like these, conversations like these, where the parallels of Blackness and femininity, no matter the gender, and fatness, no matter the gender, you know, is celebrated. And not only celebrated, it's highlighted in a way that says, this is our selves. This is resistance work, because there is still present day, go to twitter.com, you'll see them, a large group of people who still try to dehumanize fat femmes, sex workers, people living with HIV, trans women. You know, this is always a scandal every week about this, because people are still living in that darkness. But this book, honey, it's light. It's light. And it's, to me, I'll speak in I statements, it's literally us reclaiming our place in this work, because this is freedom work for us with this book.
Yes.
When we get free, y'all get free, you know. So I think about all the little Rashids, the Picassos today, who's going to see this book and say, I see Storm. You know, I see something to look up to, that I don't have to go through the pain and suffering of what they went through, because they are the visibility that I may need to see for myself. Or if it's not for me, it's someone I can learn to love and love on. So I'm so, like, again, it goes back to that message of, we can all sit around and create. Right? We can all sit around and be brilliant, but if the work is not impactful beyond you, what is your work? You know, not to say that's a bad thing or anything like that, because sometimes your work should serve you and you alone, but think about the ways of your impact. What is your intent versus your impact? I can say confidently that the intent with this book was to celebrate all of our genius, right? But the impact will be so much more greater and so much more richer, because with coffee table books, or books in general, they live longer than us. So
yes,
back to the space.
Very much that.
Yes, I do think this is a vital text. I do think it's gonna, like Laquan was saying when he was curating it, he had like shared an anecdote about how he was talking about Joseph Beam and his anthology In the Life. And he was just sharing kind of, I won't get it like super into it, but he was sharing an anecdote about how he was at I don't remember where he was, but he was at some kind of like talk that was about the impact of it. And I was like, have you thought about in 20 years, there's going to be, as you said, a little Picasso, a little Mojo, a little Laquan, a little Rashid, a little Day, who's like discussing this text as the jumping off point for them, either discovering something about themselves or considering something about others and the world outside of them that they never considered. Right. And I mean, whether it is a book like this, whether it is, you know, a song you made on SoundCloud, whether I'm just so excited for this moment. That's one thing about COVID for creatives. As you said, this has never been a more lucrative time for you. It's never been a more creative time for you. Even through your battle with COVID, you were pushing through because you understood the how essential this work was. Yes. I think this is a time for people like us. We are like, all we've had is idle time, and that energy is just getting poured into, like, we've got to put something out there that exists beyond us. And I'm so excited for, I don't know what impact it's going to have, but I know we were saying before the stream that there's not that many copies left, so go get it, and we're almost to our fundraising goal, so make it happen. But like, and I love that there's a fundraising component to this, and that it's not just about exalting community, but it's also about, like, it's about emboldening community and fortifying community, like monetarily, because we got to contend with capitalism in some type of way, which is a whole other conversation. But I'm so excited about this book, and I'm so excited to be in all of your company. This is so great.
No, yeah, so just that portion back real quick, just to remind everybody, every single dollar that is towards this book will go to our current community partners, Destination Tomorrow and Glitz Inc., both of which are working on housing programs for Black, trans, queer, underserved.
Yes.
So once again, all of this has been very intentional. We said the word Black so many times that this was a drinking game, you'll probably get killed over. So we want to make sure that this is so with that being said, the book is available now, it is in print. We do have a few copies left before we probably go on wait list. So we additionally have these tiers as well too. So the more you donate, you get some cool swag as well too. We got we got a journal set, because the girls still like to write. I know I do.
Sure do.
And we also have a shirt as well as a hoodie, which shout out to Trey Cruz out there, who is the artist that has the cover image. He is also on that hoodie image as well too, right on the front. So we are celebrating Black art. This is also the under
so pretty
portion. Yeah. All shout out to Trey Cruz once again for your beautiful cover artwork. So like I said, Black visibility, this is what you are supporting. Just go for it.
And I know those direct deposits just hit this past Friday. Come on.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
No excuse.
Open your purse.
Okay. Let's be serious. No, but additionally as well, we have a fundraising goal of $10,000, and we are so close to that goal at this moment. So
we are just over $1,000 short of that goal.
So
yeah, you guys, come on.
We could close that gap. Okay?
Look it up. Open your purse.
That's why I get that merch, get this book, this vital text. Yeah.
So I know we're coming to the top of the hour, and I just want to throw it back to y'all for any closing gems, because y'all have had some really good ones throughout this entire chat. So I just wanted to throw it back to y'all to see any parting messages of of what we can do to continue to do the work and lift our community up.
I'll go last.
You'll go last. I think, I'll say it again, and I know that it's anecdotal, but it's also, it's specific to me, but I also think it's broad. There are a lot of people. My experience was I came to this city to find community. I came to the city searching for evidence that there was a precedent, that I was not alone. And I think whatever you do, if you make music, if you take pictures, if you write essays, if you make sculptures, whatever it is, as Mojo said, I couldn't have said it better than you, Mojo. Document your existence. Mm-hmm. Document that you were here. Don't let anyone tell your story but you. Create your own context if you don't feel like you see it, or you don't feel like it's so important. And I think this book will encourage people. I think conversations like this encourage people, and they're so important. I can't stress enough that your book. Oh yes, follow. But I can't express enough that it sounds so cliche, and I know this vernacular is employed by all of these these bullshit entities, but your voice matters. It really does. And if you're shouting into an echo chamber, or you're reaching 1,000 people, it's gonna hit somebody. It's gonna mean something to somebody. And I just can't. If I leave with anything, it's just shine your light through darkness, literally. Put it out there, make what you want to make. Don't be concerned with the standards of other people. What do you want to say? Honor yourself, and just, seek out community. That's the biggest thing I can say. Seek out community. And if you haven't found it, create your own community. Reach out, get people. Yeah. And buy the book.
Get the book.
Get the book.
No. So I'll go of course next. Because Mojo would like to go last. I'm gonna respect that, of course. But no, so in what I would like to say for my final thought is to speak up in any way that you have possible. That does, if you are a person who does protest, yes, you can go out and protest. However, we do understand as a fellow creative as well too, use your voice, your pen, your paintbrush, your whatever you have, speak up and speak out. If there's things that I know for me as dance has been, I always talk about my journey of dance being like the savior to my life, because if there's things that I verbally cannot say, you're going to know it once I either hit a pole or hit the floor. And that's how I speak. That's my language. I encourage everyone out there to use your language to speak up and speak out, to educate, to really bring the truth, bring your own truth. Your truth matters out in this world. And once again, for this is specifically for my Black and brown people, we are here, we matter. Don't let anyone else tell you any different. And that's how we can collectively be able to beat the system, is if we notice our power or remind ourselves of our power. I'm a huge believer in Sankofa. You learn from your past, bring it to your future to make yourself a better future. So yeah, that's how I'm gonna end it on there.
And I'm gonna go so Ms. Mojo can wrap us up. So I think the thing for me and the parting gem will be, it's bigger than you, right? So like the work we do, the life we create, the energy we put out in the world, it's not only just about us. It's literally about every single person that walks this earth now and the ones to come after you. So once you know that, push forward.
I would like to say, Rashid, thank you for hosting us in such a gracious and beautiful way. Thank you for lending your time and your voice to create this space and just navigate the space so that the proper words were received across the board. Picasso, I want to thank you for showing up and being your authentic self through your art and your movement work. And it's so important that we right the wrongs that societies have placed on our backs. And I feel like your work truly does that. Dave, my sweet baby, honey, you keep on swinging, because let me tell you, you inspired me to think about it. Not gonna say I'm gonna do it, but the thought is enough for me right now in my life. So thank you for showing up in every multiple way that you do. I think for me, I am a Black woman of trans experience from Brooklyn, New York, and it's about damn time that I feel in community with my community. Transitioning has been such a life-changing thing. I have given up so much privileges. I've lost so much family and friends, but to be able to celebrate where I am now in preparation for where I'm going, my God, on today is such a beautiful feeling. And I think the more we start to lead with purpose and intent, and not just with things that fascinate us sexually or monetary, like we can really see the world for what it is. We are all, to me, I always say we're all walking portraits of poetry, and we all have a story to be told. And recognize where you stand in this worldview, and recognize those who may be under your feet. Lift them up. Because when they come up, you go up. You know what I'm saying? Think about the people who are the most marginalized. Correct people when you see they're being ignorant and harmful to a community you may not exist in. Advocate for yourself in ways that's going to make other people uncomfortable. Do that work, because it's necessary for us to reimagine and recreate the world in which we are loved on and cared for. I am so blessed to be who I am. And I recognize my privileges as even a Black trans woman who doesn't have to engage in sex work, who's employed, who has the freedoms to create, because my life is not based on survival every single day. Many of my sisters don't have those privileges. So I stand up for them and I advocate for them harder than I sometimes do for myself, because I know when they get free, honey, my God, we all get free. So just that in any work you do, whether it's writing, photography, whether it's just going to a 9 to 5, think of the change that you have the ability to make and make it count. Thank you.
All right. Thank you all so much for joining us today for our second Impulse Talks. We'll be hosting another one on March 7th on polyamory. So
I will be watching.
I'm like, okay.
I mean, I feel like it's the new trend now. So look forward to joining you all then. Thank you all for coming, and we're out.
Bye.
Yeah, thank y'all.
Bye.